Hello, it's Denise from Women Beyond a Certain Age. This is the second installment of our podcast with Chef Debbi Dubbs. Debbi has had such a long, successful career. It takes 2 podcasts to cover it. And we've also, and no, it's true. And that's not meant to make you feel old. But since you're younger than me, trust me, you can't feel old because I can't believe I got this old. It went so fast. That's all I say to people. One day I was like at the prom, and the next day I'm picking out the box. I mean, it just went so fast.
I know.
All right.
It's like, what happened to my 40s?
Hello, they're gone. It's all a blur.
No kidding.
It's all a blur. Those 40 years, I will say this. In my retirement now, and I have been writing, Debbi, I'm able to look back sometimes and think, God, that was amazing. Do you know what I mean? I appreciate it more now than when I was doing it. That's all I know.
Absolutely. And I wish I had that energy.
Oh, no. See, that's something you have to. I wake up. You know what, Deb? I'm still good for 5 or 6 hours. But after that, I mean, when I think of how I used to work 12, 14 hours a day,
right?
Come home, do a load of laundry, do a couple of invoices, blah, blah, blah. Have 3 glasses of wine.
Then it's time for a nap.
Now, after my manic energy in the morning, oh, yeah, I can hardly wait to take a nap.
I know.
It's my treat. The nap has actually replaced my glasses of wine. Well, honey, now here's what I want to ask you about.
Okay.
These are what pressing questions, and all this information is Debbi has mentioned is on her website, Chef Debbi, that's Debbi Kitchen, Chef Debbi's Kitchen or Chef Deb's Kitchen?
Deb's Kitchen.
Deb's Kitchen. See, I'm saying it wrong. Luckily, Cindy edits everything and puts the correct information on the website, because I have the attention span of a gnat, Deb. That's the other thing. I mean, it was never strong. The ADD was always there, but now it's really bad. Now, listen, here's what I want to tell people. In 2012, that's, if you can believe it, Debbi, that's how long ago it was, I went on one of Deb's farm tours. Okay. So, and there were many people on it. It was just, we went to wineries, we saw farms. Deb took us to incredible places. We stayed at a lovely place on the Central Coast. And Deb, to be perfectly honest with you, the reason it was not only was it fun and I learned things, I think the Central Coast, it's better now, but it's been such an underlooked area in California. Do you know what I mean? People knew that there was a farming community and stuff, but people didn't realize how beautiful it was or all the places they could visit.
Well, that's how we fell in love with it, and now it's really popular.
Yeah.
And it's so popular that you can't get into your favorite restaurants sometimes.
Ah, okay. Well,
so it's been discovered.
Yeah. Well, good for them. Do you know what I mean? I'm glad for the restaurants. Tell us, how did you and your husband discovered it, didn't you?
We did. We actually used to go to Carmel on vacation. And we went up the coast and we drove through this little town. We didn't even know there was a town there, honestly. There was this big, beautiful restaurant on the hill that overlooked the ocean. So we stopped and had lunch there once and got talking to the bartender. And she said, oh, you have to go down to Moonstone Beach. So we went down to Moonstone Beach and we discovered that Long Beach area.
Yes.
In Cambria. We didn't know there was a town still. We would just go up and just go to Moonstone Beach and walk on the beach and surf and play, do whatever we were going to do. And somebody told us, oh, you have to go into town. There's 2 parts to town. So we spent, 10 years discovering all about Cambria. And actually, I bought a bottle of lemon flavored olive oil. And I was working at Melissa's then, and I sent the owner a letter. We had email then, so I beg you to differ. So I sent her an email telling her how much I liked her olive oil and that I worked for a produce company. And she said, well, we're going to do a food and wine pairing um, and with olive oil. She said, why don't you come up and do a little speech for us? So I did that, and she introduced me to a winemaker. And from that winemaker, I met several others. And then, I would come back and I would tell my classes that I just been up on the Central Coast and I got to go to this farmer, this olive oil place, and we learned how to cure olives. And they were like, well, when are you going to take us? That's what started the tours. So then I started doing a tour every year.
That makes perfect sense.
And I'll tell you, they're fun, but there were a couple of tours that I swore up and down I would never do another one.
Oh, okay. Now listen, that's the story of hard work. No, I'm not kidding you. And I mean,
yeah,
I look back on some of my days and I remember driving away with Cindy saying, we're never doing a commercial like that again. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm never doing a party like that again or whatever. And then 6 months would pass and then somebody would offer me a big bag of money and then I would take the job.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things, the first book I ever wrote, Deb, it was at least 10 years before I wrote my second one. Then I wrote a bunch in succession because by that time, Cindy was working with me. So I had someone that would help. Do you know what I mean? Because when you go to write books, if you don't have some support system, this is when you see people said, oh, I've been writing this book for 7 years. Well, of course I have, because you're alone. You know what I mean?
And you're still working.
And you're still working at your full-time job. So I totally get that about, I want to talk to you about your tours, but I have to tell you, this is our famous Cindy's in My Tour story. ICP, when they were still, a big deal, asked me if I would lead a tour of Los Angeles for 5 days. Remember when ICP used to do those 5 days?
Oh yeah, those were fun.
They were so much fun. One was in Vancouver Island. I went to a couple. They were fantastic. Cindy and I practiced. We drove in the traffic. We planned the whole tour. It was the Forever Cemetery. We took them to Valentino's. We took them to the girls, to the two Hot Tamales restaurants. We negotiated everything so that it could be, people could. Anyway, it was fabulous, Debbie. But when those bitches were on the bus, they were all going back to the airport. Unless they could read my lips and I was waving goodbye, I was saying, you miserable bitches, I hope I never see you again. Okay. And it was fun, but it was the most exhausting thing. I'll give me 2 infomercials back to back, which is a lot of work. Running a tour is hard work.
It is.
It's when you're the leader, it's hard work.
It really is. I know. After a 3-day tour, I'm comatose.
Good. I would expect you to be.
Yeah. I just lay around. Sometimes I don't even get dressed.
I know. Listen, after a big commercial or a big infomercial, the only reason I would go out to unload my car on the second or third day was because it was sitting outside and it was starting to smell. But all the dishes or the pots and pans or whatever we hadn't washed on site were wrapped in paper bags. You can imagine what it was like when I had to.
I've had days like that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's not one of the days, or my husband would come home, like when you say you didn't get dressed, and the tips of my fingers were orange from eating Cheetos with my glass of red wine in my pajamas. The stolen Cheetos that I had gotten off the craft service table. Okay. Not a pretty sight, Deb.
Yeah, really.
Now, tell us about some of the wineries that you have highlighted, if you would, on your tour, and why. Because to me, when I was on your tour, I loved all of the wineries, but some of them, you literally had the owners of the winery or the winemaker there opening wine for us. And that was pretty special.
Right. I don't remember which
We went
winery.
to Hall. We went to Hall. We went to the one that had a wine club where the owner was right there and we were in his home. Oh God. And
Oh, yeah.
he'd been with Justin, I think, for a
That
while.
was gosh, I can't remember the name of the
But his wine
wine
was
now.
fabulous.
Yes, they're lovely people. And
Yeah.
they excuse me, they actually did buy a wine tasting place out
Nice.
on Vineyard Road. And so we go to that one and to Halter Ranch.
Halter, that's
I
yes.
love Halter Ranch. And let me tell you why. I discovered them when they were really small, when this gentleman had just purchased it. And the actual farmer would give us a tour. And this is when their winemaking was, they have an airstrip on the property, and they have a little hangar where he could park his little Cessna. And that's what they used to make their wine in these
Wow.
big barrels. It was just amazing. Since then, 15 years later, they've built a huge winery on the hillside, and then they have a tasting room for the members upstairs. And then they built an open tasting room with a 180-degree view. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
The thing that I like about them is that they're now certified organic. The owner likes to give back, and he set off so much land to save in perpetuity. So they let the wild animals come down, and they have cameras all over the place, so you can see the animals, lions and tigers and bears kind of
Yeah.
thing.
How fabulous.
And when they built their winery, all the stones that they dug out of the ground, they used to make the front wall of the winery. So they recycle everything. And the winery is built on a 2% grade, so that when they hose it down, all the water runs off and runs down into a lake where they stock with fish. And the staff gets to go fishing.
Respecting the earth.
Yeah, it's a fabulous, fabulous place.
You know what, Deb? All this stuff has been to me, has been at our fingertips, but we ignored so much of it. Do you know what I mean? People just ignored organic, and they ignored it. We knew that chemicals weren't good for us for 30 or 40 years ago, but corporations or certain businesses ignored it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll tell you a little story. I was a restaurant manager, and this was like in, I don't know, 92, something like that. And I was invited by Bonterra Winery, Bonterra Fetzer Vineyards, to come to this food and wine pairing. And this was before food and wine pairing parties were started. This is where it started. And Chef John Ash came down, and there were only about 25 or 30 of us. And he gave a little talk, and then he made some food for us and taught us how to pair the food with the wine. And that's what got me started on wine and wineries and organic wines. And he was fabulous. He helped encourage me to go to culinary school. So at 40, I went to culinary school while I was still working full time.
I know. It's hard. I'm tired thinking about it.
I know. I couldn't do it today. I'm lucky to get through, like you said, 5 or 6 hours, and I'm done.
Yeah. I'll tell you it's such a small world. I knew John Ash. My first paid job at a cooking school was at Joseph Phelps in the Napa Valley.
Oh, yeah.
He had a competition at the CCA. They put it up on the board. It said, whoever wants to come will pay for the groceries. You make like 30 people lunch that day, because that was all the people that work there. And we'll choose the winner. And then you work the crush, and you make lunch small lunch, but a big dinner for everybody. And I won. Of course, I was so proud of myself when I won, Deb. Then when I was working this 18-hour day, washing, they didn't even have a dishwasher. So I was cooking, washing. I remember thinking, what did I win here?
Yeah, really.
Anyway, but because I was in the Napa Valley, I was in those days, you drove through, it was before the big freeway. You were basically driving through Sonoma all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Right, sure.
And I knew John Ash in Sonoma because he was doing caterings then. And he and I, we kept crossing paths. Do you know what I mean? And
right.
He was always a very talented, lovely man. And that was, and I didn't know anything about it then. It was the winemaker helped me. That was my job during the day at Phelps. This is from 1984, Deb, however long ago that was. My job was the winemaker would bring in the wine and give me a glass and say, what should you make for lunch to go with this wine? And then they didn't have the distribution they have now. And they invited all the restaurants in San Francisco to come, the general managers or the chefs, to taste their wine so that they would sell out most of their wine before the next season. That was their idea. Because they were small. I mean, Joe Phelps was a millionaire. He was a contractor out of Colorado. But it was those days of the Napa Valley when wineries were not big corporation. And these cowboys went and planted some vines and decided they were going to make wine. Do you know what I mean? It was a very different time.
Well, and that's how they got wines into the restaurants, by inviting all those restaurateurs to come out and to taste their wine, because they had better distribution.
Yes.
At that time. Prior to that, they didn't have any distribution. It was all local that they sold their wine to.
That's exactly right. So John Ash, that's really, talk about a small world. What I knew, and it's still the same way. Deb, I've taken your classes. I've taken a million wine classes. Okay. Unlike you, where you research and know more, it always boils down to me about what I like. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I know it just boils down to what I like. And when people, of course, expect me, when we go to restaurants with friends, they'd always say, oh, let Denise pick the wine. My husband would say my wife would drink tub water if that's what they were serving and calling it wine. But I have a fairly educated palate. But honestly, I like, if I'm going to drink any wine, because of where I grew up in San Francisco, and my grandfather had a little farm in Sonoma, and my relatives lived in Napa, I like bold red wine from California. Do you know what I mean?
I'm with you. That's my favorite.
You can give me the fancy stuff in French wines, and I'm drinking it, and I'm thinking to myself, this needs some oomph.
Yeah. I love that the California soil.
Me too.
Makes the best red wines.
And I have had arguments with this. I like Spanish wines, and I like red, French wine and stuff. But really, I've had arguments with people that are much fancier than I am when it comes to wine. And they'll say, oh, those California wines they're harsh, or they're this, or they're something. I said, they're bold and delicious. They went for that. That's what we're going for. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We're not wimping around out here in the vineyards. We want bold red wine.
This is California, for God's sakes.
For God's sakes. I'm tired of trying to educate everyone, Deb.
I know. I try. That's another reason why I do these tours too, is to help educate people about things that aren't part of their lives right now. I want you to experience this winery or that food, or, that's my job. That's always been my job, is to educate.
And the fact that you're able, though, to bring in the soil, the gardening, the organics and stuff, Debbie, it rounds it all out. Do you know what I mean? It's bigger than I think it's bigger than you even know the words that you're spreading. It's pretty fabulous. Now answer me this. I happen to know that you got into botanicals, and you have talked about it the last time because you started to grow flowers in your community garden.
Right.
Now, again, this is an offshoot, but so smart. Tell me about botanicals and what that means to you.
Well, I started just tinkering around making lip balms and stuff like that. And I found a couple of gals that I like to follow, and they make all kinds of botanicals from flowers that they grow. So I grow a lot of calendula, and it self-sows. So every year it comes up wherever it wants to come up. And I take the flowers and I infuse. I put them in a big jar and pour olive oil over them and let it infuse. Now, calendula is just a natural antioxidant. It helps your skin heal. It's great for lip balms, all kinds of things. And so I just started growing flowers to use in the botanicals, echinacea, things like that.
Well, you sent me hand cream and lip balm that I used up. One was lavender. Wasn't the hand cream lavender?
Yeah, they were all lavender. Well, the hand cream was lavender, definitely. And the lip balm had a little bit of lavender in it, and I think it had orange in it at that time.
Do you still sell them or make them for people?
I do. And they're special order. It ships in 24 hours. It takes me, I make them to order. So they don't have any preservatives in it. It's just all natural products.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing, Deb. I think that is just extraordinary. And again, you said it already that you love research. See, I wish Cindy knows this about me. I'm interested in something for about 10 minutes and then I go, oh, there's a bunny. And you know what I mean?
Well, once I find everything that I can find on the subject, I'm off on something else. I'm just like you. So that's why I've done so many things in my life, is because I want to know more, and there's no more to know about that subject, basically,
It's very interesting that you say that, because with ADHD, I've been watching these YouTube videos. Now, I've known I had ADHD all my life. They didn't even call it that. In those days, they called it ADD. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And then before that, they didn't even have a name for it.
No, they didn't. They called me hyperactive. They told me I couldn't focus. You know what I mean? Every teacher in the classroom would say she's disruptive.
Never.
What? That didn't sound very nice. And so, but now as I've actually, and my sister now has been diagnosed, which I can see as she's older, exactly. And a friend of mine recently, very young and smart, was diagnosed. So she called me and she said, do you have any advice? I said, if I did, wouldn't I be in better shape? No, I have no advice. But I think, this is just a generalization. When I think of people in the food industry, when you read the statistics and when you read, I think that, and when I think of the kitchens that I ran, I think almost every kitchen I worked in, everybody had ADD. Do you know what I mean? They were all, or we were all just on the spectrum, or we were all just borderline something. It takes a certain amount of that kind of energy to do what we've always wanted to do. Otherwise, why would anyone do? My husband, brilliant man, researches, smart, studied the law. He's a litigator. He wants to win. He has all that going for him. But Debbie, he can only do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
When he was young, I don't mean this as he's age. If I say to him things like, well, pick up the newspaper, and he says, I'm opening the door. All right,
I just went through that with my husband too.
But I think to myself, Kenny could not have worked in a kitchen,
right?
Because of the unknowns. Do you know what I mean? Or on commercial, or the constant unknowns that just, 1 minute you're standing there and the next minute the stove is on fire. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's what attracts us to restaurants, is that things are always moving, you
That's
know,
right.
and when it's slow and it's still, you go home. So I tried doing retail for a while, and the slow times just killed me. I can't stand around and not be doing anything. That's what I like about the restaurants, is there's always something going on.
I used to say the same thing, Deb. And one of the reasons I loved, I mean, in styling, catering, restaurants, when we weren't styling, we still had stuff to do. You know what I mean? We had to pick out, we had
Right.
to test the recipe, we had to pick out props, we had to wash the lawn, the linens from last time. I mean, I used to say to people, when you're running a kitchen, um, it's like having a baby. When you're serving the food, the baby's awake. And then when the baby goes to sleep, there's still diapers to do, and there's more prep, and the walk-in needs to be cleaned out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Other, otherwise, we're going to sit down and smoke and drink.
Which we did.
We could. I know. But anyway, when I bring this back, because sometimes we're having, this is the example, Devin. You were so gracious to, I didn't ask Debbie. I think I meant to email you on Sunday to see if you could come do a podcast on Friday. And then I waited and you said you could. And of course, it's balancing. It's not just me. Can Cindy do it this week? Do you know what I mean? Definitely. It's
Sure.
like anything. Can the guest do it? So I said to Kenny, well, I'm going to have Cindy's available, and my dear friend Debbie said she's available. So on Friday, we'll record 2 podcasts. And this is typical Kenny, because this week we've been getting our house painted. Now, Debbie, we're not out there painting the house, for Christ's sake. We hired painters. But the only thing with us, and I know you'll understand, I have 2 big doggies. So when the painters seal up all the doors and everything, I'm walking them every hour so they can go pee. Do you know what I mean? But the gate,
Sure.
they have to be unleashed. I thought Kenny was going to have a stroke. You can't have a podcast for an hour and a half. I mean, he just went off. You're expecting me to handle everything? I said, Ken, it's an hour and a half. There's 24 hours in the day.
Yeah.
7. You know what I mean? But it's just amazing. Though you either have the personality that you can handle the chaos and also move from 1 minute you're teaching, 1 minute you're leading a tour, 1 minute you're doing recipes, and 1 minute you're bussing the dishes.
Right.
Or you're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. In my younger days, I loved all that. Now I my very favorite thing to do is, if I'm not in the garden, I like to write.
I get you. Well, because you're sitting down.
Exactly. My
No,
knees don't do what they're supposed to anymore.
You said it the best. Here's what, if you were just, and I didn't prepare Debbie for this. Debbie, for people, but we talk so much about it. If people want to learn more about wine, besides just going to wineries, if they go to Trader Joe's or a store, can you tell us 3 wines that cost between $10 and $20 that maybe they could have their own little wine tasting with?
Oh my God, that's really tough.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, one of my favorite wines is a Menage a Trois
Yes.
red.
Yes.
They have 3 different kinds, and it's a great table wine. If you go to Ralph's and you buy 6 bottles, you get it for $7.
Okay. Now,
Where it normally costs you like 13.
okay, that's a perfect example. Now I buy that. The other, and you also gave the other tip. If people don't know, Ralph's, when you buy 6 at a time and use one of their free carriers, they give you 10% off.
Yeah.
And discount on the price. No, the wine becomes absolutely reasonable. My tip this week was, and this is at Trader Joe's, and I always shopped at Trader Joe's when I lived in LA. And I think Trader Joe's has a great selection of wines between, $6. But I go to Aldi because it's closer. But I was in Trader Joe's and they had 30. Line 39. Do you know that one?
No, I don't.
Saying it correctly. Is it line 39? Anyway, shoot. It would help if I knew had the name correctly. Anyway, I buy it from 10 to $12 at stores. Okay. The biggest thing is on the label is the big 39. It's a latitude 39 or magnitude 39, something like that. You'll see it. It's got a big 39 on the Trader Joe's had it for $4.99 a bottle this week. Now, I don't know why. I immediately think that the wine has gone bad and they're selling it to me and the wine isn't good. I bought 4 bottles and brought it home, and it was early in the day, and I said, I have to open this wine to make sure it wasn't spoiled, and Trader Joe's sold me bad wine, and he said, Denise, Trader Joe's is not going to sell you bad wine. The wine was perfect. It's $4.99 at Trader Joe's this week. I have no idea why.
Remember Two Buck Chuck?
Yes.
That was huge, and it was a decent table wine.
I'm going to tell you, I would like to tell you I never drank Two Buck Chuck, but there were a couple of times I drank. If you got the white one cold enough, it didn't matter. And the red one, though, you know, Deb, I still do open a bottle of wine or two. Aldi does not have the selection of Trader Joe's. Ralph's has a fabulous selection of all different prices of wines. We go to Bevmo, but Bevmo to me has much better deals on everything but red wine. I don't know why they don't have a great deal on it. But anyway, no, you said that. I said 39. There's another one. Oh, and then if you can afford 17 or 18 bucks, I think Freak Show is a great red wine.
I haven't tried that.
Okay. I mean, that's good enough to serve at a dinner party. But and then the other one that I will buy is Justin for about 24 bucks. When I see Justin has a bottle of wine for 24 bucks, I buy that. Not their real high end. It's their lower end.
I've had $90 bottles of wine, $150 bottles of wine that are really nice and smooth and tasty, but I'm not going to be buying $150 bottles of wine.
And sometimes I agree with you. We just went to a wine tasting here in Ventura, and it was some great wineries. Rombauer was there. Justin was there. They were just putting it together in this little event facility. And you know what, Deb? I've had $100 bottles of wine, or 100, just like you said, it didn't blow my socks off. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I would seek that wine again. I was impressed with the price tag, but I wasn't impressed with the wine.
I'd rather buy half a cow, to be honest. I don't think you can get a half a cow for 150 bucks anymore, but you used to.
Well, we won't be talking about veganism today.
Please don't even say that in my presence.
I have to tell you, and then I cannot thank you enough for your time and expertise. Recently, a woman, we've had certainly plant-based, and I should ask Ida Rodriguez, but she's retired, if she wants to come and talk about vegetables, because she, it would be wonderful. But when people do that to me, Deb, when publicists send me books on only vegetables, and then I read the chef's bio, and they've eaten vegetarian for 25 years, I can't relate. Okay, I understand eating your vegetables, but I want that lamb chop.
Absolutely. I'm a steak girl. I'm like my grandfather. I can eat steak every single night. Sometimes I do.
Thank you for admitting that. Thank you for admitting that. During one of where we're going to eat healthier, and we do eat pretty healthy. I'm not, Kenny and I try to eat healthy, but once in a while I make turkey burgers, and he looks at me and says, could we have hamburger next time? I say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. And, oh, well, honey, thank you. Is there anything else? Now, people, we're going to say it again. Deb's Kitchen Chef. Oh, okay. Say your own website.
Deb's Kitchen. Deb's Kitchen. DEBS Kitchen.
I'm looking right at it, Deb. I'm looking right at it. Okay. Problem with a learning disorder. Okay. Oh, well, honey, thank you so much. People can go and see what you're up to. See if there's anything, to order botanicals, to see. I'm sure, Debbie, if there was 5 or 6 people that would make it worth your while, you would do a private tour. for
Oh,
somebody. But
absolutely. And I have done that before.
yeah, that's the way to go. All I know is that one of the ranches, and I'm sorry, there were lambs and horses. It was someone's ranch, and you had us lunch under an arbor, and you made the most delicious lunch. I don't know where it was, but it was so peaceful to go to that farm and just sit there. And you made cheesecakes in a jar, and it was absolutely delicious.
I do. I love doing those little cheesecakes in a jar, but I don't like washing them.
I'm
They're annoying.
I know. Honey, thank you so much. If people want to reach out to us, you need to send us questions at womenbeyond@icloud.com. You can reach out to Debbie on her website. And Cindy always puts all the information to reach Debbie, or when she puts up the podcast, when we broadcast. So Deb, thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Denise, and Cindy too. It was really great to see you guys and to talk to you.
Miss Cindy keeps the whole train going. So without Cindy, there would be no podcast. And I thank her. And Deb, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You betcha. Thank you.
Okay, honey. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll see you soon. Bye, Cindy.